Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Kelly Lynn on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Florida. But most importantly, she is our current guest. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory onto what got you started into that health and fit lifestyle?
Okay, well, so flashback, I was about 18 years old and I ended up going in the Marine Corps. And while I was in there from 99 to 2003, I met some bodybuilders that were like, you know what, you have a physique. Why don't you try to do a show? I was like, I don't know anything about that. I'm kind of nervous. And they're like, hey, you could do, with your calves and everything. I'm like, here we go again, because I hated in high school because I had kind of muscular legs, and all the guys would say to me, God, I wish I had legs like you. And I'm like, is that a compliment or is this compliment? I don't know. So, you know, some genetics come into play. So I was really tiny. I was probably about a buck 10, 12 in the Marine Corps, and it was just like a pipe dream. So it was crazy. I went and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I didn't know anything about posing. I didn't know who to talk to. I bought books. I bought videos. It was Perfect Posing by Gary Udit. It was like a VHS, and I would watch it. It said like hold this pose for 2 minutes, and I would just like copy it and hold it. And then after that, I basically, you know, did my first show. Took third at 21. I kind of had muscle, but kind of don't. I look back at the photos and I laugh at myself. I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? As soon as I got on stage, because I have a dance background, I danced. I did ballet, tap, and jazz when I was young, and I've always had a thing for the stage. So I just decided to kind of use that, presentation part, the art of sculpting my body, and kind of came together. And I fell in love with it the first show I ever did, even though it wasn't like the best, outcome. I still was like, you know what, I think I can do this. I used to watch the Olympia on ESPN, and when I was like 18, 17 years old, and I saw Monica Brandt and I saw all these other girls, and I would watch ESPN and see Corey Everson, and I was like, how do they have muscle like this? Is it possible? Are they born that way? I don't know. So, just like everybody that I've came in contact with, as far as, like clients or people, everyday people, they'll say to me, have you always been like this? I'm like, no. Like, this is work. It's hard work. It's a lot of like dedication. It's just sometimes it's secluding yourself, which it's kind of like give and take. So get there.
I mean, I highly recommend everyone go and check out her Instagram. We'll leave the link down below. But yeah, she has some photos of her before and afters. And even when she did have a lot of muscle, let's say like 10 or 12 years ago, there's a huge difference between then and now. So it does take so much hard work and dedication, which I think a lot of people don't recognize at first. But when you were getting started in the weight room, I always sort of like to make the analogy where if you were to go into a weight room with 100 people, there's 100 different ways on how they got their results, whether it comes to reps, type of exercises they did, their nutrition. Was that hard for you individually to sort of find out what worked best for your body in the beginning, knowing that everyone's body's different, and that if you do get even a shred of advice from someone, the way that they got to their results is going to be different from where you get to your results?
Yeah, well, it's kind of cool. I mean, growing up, I was always like the why? Why is that? Why is that? How does that work? I was kind of a sponge for knowledge. So I would always ask people that I would kind of admire, or they inspired me, and I'd look at them and I'd say, how did you get that? Like, how did you get this chest like that? How did you get shoulders like that? So just by, looking at someone's, I guess, their results, I would ask those people, or I would read a medical journal or a magazine sometimes, but I would kind of be more selective on what I thought was proper form, and like how to, really start getting into it. So yeah, there was a ton of information just right there. Most of it, there was no really internet there at that time, but for bodybuilding. But I would these different magazines and stuff, and I'm like, well, this workout says you got to do 8 to 10 reps. This workout saying you have to do 20. So like, which one's going to work? So I kind of like just trained a lot and trained like till I felt like I was going to die. And I would work out every day and be like, okay, I think I like, I saw them lifting heavy in this magazine, so maybe I need to go lift heavy. Or luckily, I kind of grew up in the gym, environment in the Marine Corps, and I would just work out around the guys, and they would be like, you can go heavier than that. And I'm like, I don't know. Just like every other girl, I was like, I don't want to get too big. And they're like, you're not. I said, okay. So I kind of like trusted the process. And if something bothered me or made me feel like, like it wasn't going to injure me or something, I wouldn't do it. So, but I did go through a period of like over exercising, and I can get into that too, which really tried to like almost took me out of the fitness industry altogether.
Absolutely. But you already mentioned one of the big myths that we like to break is that, women it's gotten a lot better over the last 5 years, I think, with Instagram and everything, but women still have that belief where if they touch one weight, they're just going to Hulk out and become Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Hulk Hogan overnight. You sort of mentioned that you kind of had that fear a little bit when you were getting started, but what do you respond normally to like clients or other people when they come up to you and say like, oh my God, I don't want to get, just absolutely huge. I'm going to gain like 50 pounds magically overnight by touching one weight. What is your main response to that?
My response is, what do you eat? Because I usually can break it down from food. If you're eating too many calories, or if you're not eating enough, I'm pretty much lay it out to them. How much protein do you eat? Well, I don't eat protein. I don't like protein. I'm like, what do you have? I had lunch. I'm like, what do you have for lunch? 2 eggs. And I'm like, and then what? And then they're like, well, maybe later on I might have salad with vegetables. And I go, well, where's your protein? And they're like, but if I eat protein, I'm going to get big. I go, no, 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 because protein's metabolically active. So basically, it's going to make your muscles grow, and you need that in order to lose weight. So that's my thing. And I tell people, if you don't eat, you're going to be fat. If you do eat, your metabolism's going to spike. So, you got to change whatever you've been doing, or you're going to keep looking like you've been looking.
Absolutely. And we're going to put this to rest in about 5 seconds. Can you give us a flex real quick? And I was going to say, does she look like the Hulk? Does she look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson? And she's been working out for that long? Are you kidding me? And look at that. And she's competition ready. She's actually, for the first time, we actually have someone on here who's actually about to hit the stage too. So it's like, come on, people, it's ridiculous. And I always tell the story about my friend in college who I started going to the gym a lot and working out, and then she'd be like, oh, I don't want to get so bulky, I don't want to get so huge. And then finally one night I just said, hey, look, the amount of weight that your purse carries is going to end up weighing more than a lot of the dumbbells in there, and you're not getting bigger from just lugging that thing around all the time. And she's like, oh, okay. So then she went in there, and then she realized that it wasn't so bad. And it's just one of those things where you just got to get in there, and you just to realize that it's not as bad, or not even bad at all, when it comes to just touching one weight. And it can be one of the most beneficial things that you ever do. But at what point in your journey did you realize, I mean, like you said, people have been coming up to you and saying like, you should do a show. Was that like a year into your training, or if your time frame wise, how long did it take for you before you started training, before you started to do a show?
I think because there's some fascination with calves and legs. So ever since I was like in high school, like the track and football coach, he always told me that I should do a bodybuilding show, or I'm going to someday. He goes, you just wait, you'll end up doing it. And I'm like, why do you say that? He goes, because with legs like you have, that you're gonna be more muscular as you get older. So I was like, that doesn't sound good at all. That sounds very unappealing as far as I just all I thought was exactly what most women or people think in general, like, wow, I don't want to be this huge thing. And I'm like, just to even put on muscle, honestly, is so much work that I think people don't realize how much you have to eat, how much you have to rest, how much there's just so many things that go into it that if you were to sit there and think that it would be that easy to just pick a weight and put weight on or put muscle on, that would be like a miracle. For most people, they would.
Yeah, sign me up if that's true.
Sign me up. Because this is hard.
Yeah.
I'm tired every day. I wake up in the morning, I just dread 20 minutes into my cardio. I'm like, and I'm usually really like, I love cardio, but prep is just a whole different animal.
You're the one person that likes cardio then that we've had on the show. Everyone just absolutely dreads it. But what gets you through cardio then? Do you just like the running? Do you just like the walking? What is it about cardio that appeals to you?
Well, I used to be a distance runner, so I used to I would get the runner's high from it. But it's funny because like the closer you get to a show, like the less you have to pull from energy. So like when I'm like doing cardio, normally I can get through my cardio. It's not like I love it, but I don't hate it.
Mhm.
And I put music on and I just go at it. There's no way I'm doing cardio without headphones. It just doesn't work like that. So if I don't have that, it's like I gotta turn around. Literally, I'll turn around in my car, go back home, get my headphones. But I mean, to get me through a workout, I mean, cardio, it's usually music. It has to be. It's always music.
What was your first prep like? Because we love to hear first prep stories because a lot of people don't realize that even if you do have the great nutrition before going to the show, prep is just a whole nother beast. That's really notching it up, even another notch further from that clean and healthy dieting. What was your first prep experience like?
Oh God, so this is like going all the way back to when I was like 21. So I mean, I do remember this very well because I thought you could have fruit and I thought you could have protein powder, and I was making like basically I was making these like little shakes, but I would use like the casein protein and I would like make it into like ice cream. And it got to the point where like I was eating so much of it that my body was like, it just stopped. Basically, like I had no fiber in my diet. And it was like, I remember it was like 2 days out from the show and it was just, I felt bloated. I was like, something's wrong with me. I can't figure out what's going on in my body. It's like, I'm like, I feel blood. I got this like big pooch and I just don't know what's going on. And actually I went to the doctor for it and they're like, you are just absolutely backed up right now. I mean, I'm just gonna be real. This is a funny story. So I was like, well, that's not good. So anyway, long story short, everything got taken care of, and I basically got to the show, and like I said, got third place. But my thing was, is I didn't know what to eat. Like I didn't know you could eat like different proteins. Like I was doing whites. It's really hard to find the food, or like you can't really have a microwave. We have a microwave, but you don't have a fridge in the Marine Corps, and we had like a barracks room, so I had to find whatever I could. I would do like, these protein shakes and have like grapes or have like strawberries and blueberries and cottage cheese and all that crap that you'd read in a magazine. But I didn't realize how much you had to like kind of like monitor your sodium and, portion size and all of that stuff. I was just a runner, worked out, and I basically just winged it and went to a show, and the prep was kind of chaotic.
I gotta ask because you did mention that you were in the Marine Corps at the time. What was your experience like on 9/11 then, being a Marine? Because not that many people have that experience when they look back at their stories of like, I just remember because I was like in first grade going to school and
Oh,
just having
yeah.
people talk about that. Yeah, I was in first grade and I just remember coming home and then everyone in my family was watching the news. But what was your experience like, especially being in the Marine Corps?
My Marine Corps experience was pretty unique. I mean, it was definitely a different environment to grow up in. It's like some kids go to college, some kids go to the Marines, some are in the military, but I just decided to do something different. So when I went in, it was a year after I went in. I graduated in boot camp in end of '99. So in 2000, I went to Buford, and that's like right by that was where I was stationed at. That's right by Harris Island. So I went from there to Pensacola for school. Then I went to Cherry Point for school because I was in aviation ordnance. So I dealt with the bomb ejector racks and the gun systems and all that stuff too. So during 9/11, we were sitting in the office, and I remember I heard the radio. We were listening to the radio, and they said that there was planes that hit. I think it was Pennsylvania first, and then we couldn't believe it. So we were told to call family if we had any family up there to reach out to them, and they put our base on lockdown. Like basically, you couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't leave our work. We couldn't go. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere until we were cleared. For some reason, all the bases and everything the government was in charge of, basically got shut down at that point.
Wow.
So yeah, it was crazy, and I mean, we were like in disbelief. Mm. And we were like, "Oh shit, this could be the real thing," like this could be the real deal. That's like you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's just interesting because that's the first person that we've had in the armed services during that time. So I always thought it's like, what were they thinking at that time? Because I know what everyone else was thinking. So that's just that's unbelievable. And then like I've been to the memorial site. Actually, one of the guys on Flight 93, Tom Brunette was an alumni of my high school. So then they named the high school field after him. They have a whole shrine to him and
Wow.
everything. So yeah, that's why I feel like everyone's connected to that day because every September 11th we're just reminded there's like a video
Oh
for him
yeah.
and everything. Yeah. So it's definitely a huge deal. But now when you were competing or when you went to your first show, what I always like to say, because I'm a very pale individual myself, I'm not blessed with, I know, but I have like the thick
But
Scandinavian.
I'm transparent.
Yeah, I know. I have the thick Scandinavian, where I can't go out in the sun for too long. No matter what SPF I use, I'm gonna get burnt. But what was that first
Right.
experience like for you putting that tan on for the first time? We always have people who say like it was so weird seeing like all those muscles pop out. You have muscles that you never thought you had when you put that tan on.
Yeah.
But what was your experience like with that tan for the first time?
Well, it was like, it was the kind you had to paint on. So protein was like the only
Oh,
thing
yep.
you could do. And so you actually had to like pour the protein and like paint it with the well, they had like these like paint, not paint brushes, but it was like one of those, I don't know how to explain it. Like it's a foam thing or whatever. So you would take that and you're supposed to brush it like that and like, whatever. And then you would do, or you could rub it on with gloves or whatever. But I remember that I had no one to do it for me, so I did it by myself. Somehow, I don't know, I like took my arm and I was like back here like this with the gloves and everything, and I mean I missed spots and stuff. And then I had to, I'm like, did I miss something? And then my mom came and she's like, "Oh God, what are you doing?" I was just like, "Why are you so dark?" I'm like, "What do we have to do?" I mean, this is and she was great. I mean, my mom was fully supportive of like everything I've ever done. So I think with her behind me, going to the Marine Corps and doing the shows, and when I danced, my mom was always there, and I think that had a lot to do with me, like just believing in my ability, because I think that's a lot of what any kind of sport. I'm sure for you too, or anything that you do, it has to come from somewhere like where you actually can believe in yourself to do it, because there's always moments of defeat. So you have to try to work past that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And now I always like to say, like, if you polled the general population, you'd probably get like 3 or 4%, I think, of people that would be willing to go up on stage in front of everyone else and showcase, even all that hard work, because you're almost in a bikini, basically. So was that a hard thing to sort of convince yourself to, be able to step on stage, or did your dancing background really help where you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna show off what I got?
I could be kind of like a ham, but I could be a ham on stage. That's definitely, or that was always my thing growing up. I was really shy growing up, and then when I would get on stage, I would be like it was just like my time to shine type of thing. It's kind of weird because dancing is one thing because you're not really in this bikini like you're saying, where you're basically almost being judged based on how you look. When if you have any insecurities or you had any insecurities when you were younger, a lot of people do this to get over insecurities, and some people, they just they do this because it's like they lost all this weight. But when I got up there, I'd have to say I kind of just blanked out. I think I was like, oh well, I guess this, I'm in this bikini and flexing and stuff in front of people, so I guess this is it. I mean, you get like 20 seconds and then you're done. So, and then coming up with a routine was just a whole nother mess. So,
I just can't believe that. I mean, for all of that hard work that you do, that you only get like 20 seconds up on the stage. That's just surreal for me. For like any other sport or any other thing, you get way more time to really showcase. But for those 20 seconds, what is that feeling like? Because I have a lot of up and coming bands on the show as well, and I love to ask them, like, what's that feeling like performing live? But also, I feel that applies to competing. What is that feeling like for you personally when you step on stage?
when I step on stage, I get nervous. Like, I mean, everybody else gets nervous. You start to feel your adrenaline pump. And for me, it's more of like this feeling of I want to entertain this crowd, so I'm gonna come out and smile. Because I was taught that when I was young by my dance teacher. When I was, she was amazing, and she used to tell me, because like when I was so shy, that I need to get out there and just, you got to make the audience want to watch you. So, as soon as I walk out, it's like, hi, basically smiling. And some people are really scared or they can't always smile on cue. But I'm like somebody that's able to smile in pictures, smile right away. So I get so nervous that if I used it the wrong way, I could probably pass out from like the anxiety. But instead of letting that get to me like that, I kind of use it in my favor and say, you know what, I'm only up here for 20 seconds. So, I paid to enter. These people paid to watch me. Why would I be competing if I wasn't expecting to get in front of people? You have to like think of all those things and realize, just have an alter ego and go out there and just do your thing. That's what you signed up for. I mean, you can look the part or you're going to get on stage and you have to be the part.
I have a somewhat similar story to that. When I was playing baseball, I was facing a pitcher who was really, really good. And I was super nervous because it was a tie game. I ended up hitting a home run, but even as I was rounding the bases, my legs were like starting to give out on me because I was so nervous. Like they were still like shaking. So even walking back to the dugout, like sitting down, my legs they just couldn't stop shaking for like the rest of the inning. But yeah, yeah, you just get nervous, but it's all about, just dealing with those nerves. I mean, thankfully I wasn't being judged on the way that I was running around the bases because I wouldn't have gotten a pretty good score on that. But it's one of those things where it's just a huge, huge mind over matter thing. What is your go-to post-show meal?
Oh, Mexican.
Ooh. Anything in particular?
I love fajitas, but my thing is like that sounds so lame, but it's true. But I love like the chips and salsa and queso, and then you have all this like flavor there's something about fajitas. I don't know. It's like just the flavor and the onions and peppers and like right now I'm salivating because of that.
I'm gonna be even lamer and say that my favorite is a quesadilla, just a plain quesadilla. I'm weird. I'm weird.
Too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
listen, and then I get like two margaritas, right? And usually they hit me so hard. And yeah, that's like my go. I'll go by myself. I don't care. Like I'm that thing. But the past. Here's the thing. The past year, I'm really sad because when I did, I got third in North Americans to Jody. I missed my pro card by 2 in Miami. And
damn it, Jody.
Both times I went to go out in Pittsburgh and there was no restaurants open but TGI Fridays, and it was like 5 minutes till close. But I was like, we're going in, and I'm getting food, I'm getting a burger, we're getting something, and that's what we did. But I was disappointed because I was just wanting that Mexican. I just wanted a good fajita and chips and salsa, but I got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, those foods, I mean, I can't imagine what that must feel like finally eating for the first time. Is that like the best meal ever then, that first meal that you have after?
Well, the crazy thing is like backstage, like before you go on, you kind of eat a bunch of crap anyway. Like I get a burger and fries. Like the night before the show, I was doing a burger and fries, and then the day of the show, I did pancakes and then burger and fries midday, and then before night show, I was having Doritos and all this other crap. So I think like all of that kind of like takes away the excitement of this crazy awesome meal you're gonna have. And half the time your stomach doesn't even want it because you're dehydrated, you have no water in your system, and you're like, okay, how am I gonna digest this? And you get bloated.
Yeah.
I always do that like that. Yeah.
And probably the most important question that I love to ask, because people don't really like to talk about it too much, especially when it comes to shows, but people don't realize is that you've sort of manipulated your body through all the dieting and the nutrition and all of the working out into looking a way that isn't sustainable. I mean, when people see photos of people that are on stage, they must think, these people must be jacked and ripped, 365 days a year. That's what some people literally have said to me. They don't realize that you are not going to look that way forever. That thing is basically, you're only going to look that way for some people, even for like an hour after the show. You might not even look that same way. People can start to sort of put on weight, or their body can fluctuate so differently on show day. But how do you prepare your mind mentally, knowing that like, hey, I've worked my butt off for these last however long amount that I've worked before the show, but this is not a sustainable look, and I'm not going to be able to look this good forever. Like I am going to put on weight after the show. Has that been a tough thing for you to sort of convince yourself mentally?
It used to be. That's what I was like. This sport when I was younger. I really took it too far, where I was working out 7 days a week, and I would never like let myself, I guess, rebound from show look because I was so addicted to the look that I think that I didn't realize that you do have to have a healthy body fat to build more muscle, to get stronger, to have your hormones working correctly. So for me, I've learned that off season, not to go too crazy, don't get out of shape, but I don't mind a little bit of extra. Like I don't, it doesn't bother me anymore. I'm more comfortable in my skin than when I was in my 20s, when I was like worried so much about what people were going to say to me. Like, because what competitors get is, do you still work out? Like, are you still working out? And I'm like, what? I used to be like, what do you mean? Are you saying I'm fat? But really, they're saying you don't look like you did for your show.
Mhm.
And but see, somebody that's like new to the sport, they can tie their self worth into their look. So how you look for show for me is, this is truly like another job. And I look at this like, I mean, I pose every day in the gym, and I run through my poses. People watch, some people don't watch. I don't really care. My thing is, I want to know that I'm doing everything possible to bring my absolute best package to the stage. So I think as long as you're not worried about judgment, I think that kind of all comes together with like how you perceive yourself with more body fat than sustaining this look. I think that has to do with it. You have to have like self worth.
Have you had that surreal moment yet where, like you said, when you were like 18, you were watching all these Olympia shows on, ESPN, and you were like, how do these girls look that way? Have you ever had that moment or that surreal moment yet where you look at yourself and you're like, wow, I'm looking like those girls looked that I was thinking like, oh my God, how do I look like that? Have you had that moment yet?
You know what? I just posted this yesterday. It's so weird on Instagram. I had a video I posted of Monica Brandt, and it's the same Olympia that I was watching on ESPN. And I remember saying to myself, I wish I could just look like this. I feel like I could do this someday. How do they get into it? And that did not cross my mind until last year. I had a surreal moment when I was in Pittsburgh, because in the national level, like the whole thing is like you want to get top five, you want to get called out, first call outs. And I did the North Americans in 2006, and I was like second, third call out. And there was so many girls in our figure division that I was like looking around like, first of all, I wasn't big enough. And, if I would just put some more time and took time off, I would have had that muscle mass I might have needed. But I was so, like I said, so focused on staying that lean that I never got a chance to grow. And it was it was my downfall. I could have stayed in the sport. I took 10 years off. And then last year, getting back up on the national stage, I had no idea I was going to get first call outs. No idea. Especially next to Jody, especially next to like all these other fantastic girls. Like, how did I get picked out from people that were from Mexico, Canada, and the United States? And how am I amongst the top five? Like, when I went backstage, I think I laid down and I started to just tear up. And I went on Instagram to tell like people that were following the show, that I told them, I'm like, I just got first call outs. And I was in the center of like the true, I can't believe it. And it happened not just once, it happened two other times that same show. So talk about surreal. Like that alone, I could care less at that moment that I got my pro card or not. It was just like, I made it. That's what I felt like. I felt like that one moment where you have this dream in your head, and like I let this dream go for 10 years, and then to get back up on stage and do this, and like to almost reach my goal at the first national show I tried, and like I said, since 2006, that floored me.
And I gotta
So
say that I did message Jody before you're coming on, just to mention that you were coming on. She said, yeah, she will become a pro this year. So I just gotta say that you got that nice warm little, and I think so too. I mean, even just looking at you, yes, you will. I think you will get your pro card for sure this year. And one of the things that I love to talk about is when I started working out and getting bigger and getting more muscular, the one negative thing that I came to find is that you're gonna get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're gonna get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. You're going to get asked to do a lot of, you're going to get asked, I mean, every time, even when my parents sometimes come home with the groceries, Ryan, you got to come out and unload all the groceries. I've gotten used to it, but have you had to deal with that sort of similar things where people just expect you to do stuff just because you look big and strong that you're able to do? And how do you sort of deal with that?
I do, but a lot of times it's really weird. It's more so like weird requests I get. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
get like, Instagram, it's like, hey, you want to arm wrestle? Like, I'm like, it's like sometimes like these kind of like, not threats, but like Weird. Like some
Yeah.
guys have to do with it, and it's weird. I'm like, I don't get it. Or if I'm at the store, this is the thing. They'll give me the bags, and they go, you obviously don't need help out. I get that one. I'm like, well, thanks, but
Yeah.
no. But other than that, I mean, I don't think. Yeah, not so much.
I have the
Not so much.
unfortunate where I mean I used to work at Amazon and now I work at UPS, but they call me muscles around there. So every package that is over like 90 pounds, they'll say get muscles over here to come and carry it. So then even last night I was just swamped, and now my back is still feeling it. I don't even know if I can work out today just because I'm just so dead from that. But yeah, I've gotten used to it, and I do take it as a compliment because it comes at I mean that they do sort of like you said, like when they're saying like clearly you don't need any help, like it does show that they recognize that you have put in all that hard work. But yeah, all those some of those creepy things, like I've heard some stories, and especially from the women, it's just like come on, it's like people come on, just know, just all I always say, if you're gonna message someone on Instagram or whatever, make sure that it's something that you could message your mom and still get away with. And I don't know, I mean, if some people's moms swing like that, I have no idea, but I guess more to them. But just it's like be respectful of these people, because one of the reasons why I've even gotten questions like, you have all these health and fitness guests, is there any big reason why you do a lot of women? And I always say, because people, especially with the women bodybuilding or the women competitors or just health and fitness, they see the muscles but they don't realize the person inside. They just see the
Yeah,
muscles and they're not able to get over that. They're not able to see that there's an actual person deep down inside that has, that's just basically a human. They just basically just are too busy just stunned looking at the muscle, and they're like, oh wow. So it's just, I like to have people, like you on, just to, make people realize that these are human beings too. They're not just people who look great, obviously, but it's just deep down. And I feel like a lot of people sometimes have a hard time sort of realizing that. Have you found that to be true also, even with people like in general meeting you, they kind of have a hard time getting past the way that you look?
yeah. I think sometimes like my thing is, and my hardest thing that I've had to, and my biggest battle is, people looking at it like it's such a narcissistic thing, or people think it's a very selfish thing. And in a way, I mean, of course, taking care of yourself is very selfish, but I don't do it for attention like people think or something. And I think I've gotten that one too, where it's like, what are you looking for? Attention? And it's like, no, not really. I want to get stronger. I think that's the fun part of going to the gym. Once you get your body to a certain look, it's fun to sculpt it. I mean, I am an artist by nature. I draw portraits, I paint, and I like to draw the human body. And I think that being able to sculpt it on your own body is really kind of interesting. I mean, it's fascinating to watch body fat to get down to like 3% and look in the mirror and curl a weight and go, holy crap, that's what's under there. Like it's
Yeah.
amazing. And I think if anybody got the chance to see that in their own body, everybody would get somewhat addicted to that
Hmm.
look. It's just, I think it's aesthetic, and I think it's kind of just an interesting journey to be on. So I think it's like there's a misconception with looks. I mean, I think whatever people find that they're interested in, they should do that.
Hmm.
I don't judge it.
Yeah. And my favorite question to ask any guest on the show by far is that I always say before I ask this that this is a multi-million-dollar idea for anyone out there who has an idea for it. But obviously, when it comes to women with muscles or women who work out a lot, your clothing options are very limited. Like I say, if you have big shoulders, if you have big traps, I mean, dresses are kind of, that's kind of a no. You're kind of going to have to work ways around it. And jeans is another big
Right.
one that I've heard where like jeans, it's almost impossible. What are some ways that you sort of compensate for the fact that you don't have all of the clothing options that someone else would have?
Spandex.
Yep. Yeah, we get that all the time. Yep. And
Yoga pants.
yeah, that's what I say. That's one of the good reasons that they were invented, is to help out people. But like I always say, anyone has that's $1 million industry right there if you can come up with something for fit women or fit guys too in general, because there is just a general lack of clothing options there. But
Yeah.
again, I highly, highly recommend that you go and do that. But now we go to our audience favorite and my personal favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire where I'm going to ask Kelly about a dozen or so questions, and we're going to get her answers and see how she stacks up to all the other guests that we've had on the show. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Go to workout song. It sounds so cheesy, but honestly, I've been listening to a lot of. There's a song I liked last year. It was called it was 2 years ago. It came out by Sia. It was called The Greatest, and I was going to compete to that song in Miami, and they didn't play it on my CD. And I just feel like the song's lyrics, when I'm like dying, gets in me every time because she's basically saying, like you're free to be the greatest
Mhm.
because you're alive. It's not saying you're the greatest. It's saying you can do whatever you want because you're alive. And I'm like, that to me is so compelling. I mean, it's just so amazing.
Yeah,
But
I'm old school. Where I got to have like my Metallica or any of those sort of heavy just to
I
give
like that
inspirations.
too.
Yeah.
I like Pantera. I like Metallica. I like, I like Limp Bizkit. I listen to all that on my playlist. But I think like when I need to dig deep, something has to have like lyrics that are going to like really emotionally can grab me. Yeah.
But I'm lucky. I mean, I have a workout place at my house, but then I also go to a gym. But when I'm at the gym, I'm one of those people too where I gotta sometimes wait for the beat to drop. So sometimes, like, I'll give you an example, like I'll be doing lat pull downs, but I'll have to wait like 20 seconds when I'm up there for the
Yeah.
beat to drop before I come down. So then
Yeah.
people will even be looking at me and be like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" He's just like standing there. It's like, is that some sort of exercise for him? And then all of a sudden the beat will drop, and then I'll just start to go down on it. Where yeah, I gotta get. But my guilty pleasure is definitely gotta be the Rocky IV soundtrack. I have that playing
Oh,
sometimes. Just the
see.
cheesy 80s music is my go-to just to lift up my mood because it's so like I have sometimes where I'm lifting where I struggle not to laugh just because it's so cheesy, but it's one of those
Oh, I
things where if
know.
I'm in a bad mood, you just crank me some of those old 80s cheesy songs and yeah, I 100%. But now, out of
Yeah.
all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Who would it be, celebrity wise? Probably The Rock.
Yep.
Because, oh, what's his name? Oh my God. From, what was that movie? Oh my God. White Chicks. Who is the guy from White Chicks?
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews.
Yeah.
Him or The Rock? I mean, because I, I like to laugh and like, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
think it would be ridiculous.
Well, okay, we're gonna take Terry Crews because, like I've said, I think you're around our 40th health and fitness guest, and 35 of them have been The Rock, just because he's just the most popular answer by far. So now for our third question, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
If I could train any celebrity, who would it be? I would say not Britney Spears. Probably, I would love to train, and it's bad because she's popular right now, but Lady Gaga, I think.
Mm.
I don't know why. It
That
just comes
that's
to my
our
head.
that's our first Lady Gaga. Our most popular answer by far is Kevin Hart. Everyone would just say that they love to train him. But I always say, like, kind of like what you were saying though. I would have such a hard time not laughing. I mean, it would be the best ab workout I'd probably ever do, but that would be the only thing that would ever get done. Yeah.
It's so true. It's
Yeah.
so true. But I think I would like to take like a person that's fit
Yeah.
and like take them to the next level.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She worked out,
Yeah.
so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But there's so many. My God, there's so many people like I would pick. It's so hard to pick.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. I came up with these questions not to be the easy questions. These are the really getting to know you deep down questions that I like to ask. So, for our fourth question, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Right now, fish.
Ooh. That is the first fish that we've ever had. Usually I found with bodybuilders, mustard is a popular answer. We've had that like 3 times, and I was like, mustard, really? And then they're like, yeah, it's got nothing. It's like really, yeah, they're like, it's got no fat or whatever. It's like good for you. And I was like, mustard, come on. So yeah.
No. Because here's the thing: like I use salt
Hmm.
to flavor my stuff. So sodium you don't like put in the fridge. So for fridge, and I eat it cold.
Ooh.
Fish. Like I can eat that cold, like throughout the day. Is that not gross?
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I can do it. I can just rough it and do it.
Yeah, I used to eat fish a lot, but now I developed it. Now for some reason I don't enjoy as much. But yeah, fish I'll still eat it on occasion. What's your favorite type to eat?
My favorite type is definitely probably mahi, but that's so expensive.
Yeah.
So we're stuck with a little bit of like cod and tilapia right now.
I live up in Minnesota, so you're probably gonna have walleye up here. So that's probably my go-to, just because it's. I
Oh,
mean, I've
salmon's
caught,
good.
yeah, I've literally caught walleye half a mile from where I live because there's a lake up there, and we found walleye there one year, and we caught it. So yeah, it's just the land of 10,000 lakes means you're gonna have a lot of fish.
What's the weather like?
It is. Well, you caught us on one lucky day because it is 57 degrees right now. But yesterday it was 40, and then we had snow last weekend.
And here in Florida, it's 89, 90 right now.
Yeah, which kind of leads me into my next question, whereas you live in an area where it's going to be, warm all year round, and by warm I mean you're never going to really get below like 60 or 50 at the most. Do you ever feel that sort of extra added pressure to look good year round? Like in Minnesota, we have that thing where it's you only got to look good 6 months out of the year because the other 6 months you're like me in a sweater, so it doesn't really matter.
Like it's winter, I'm still putting sweater on. I don't care.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
could be 800. It could be 80 degrees. I don't care. But the thing is yeah, Florida gets cold, but not lately, and it hasn't been getting cold. No,
yeah.
and I wish it would. And I really miss. I'm from Pittsburgh originally,
Oh, yeah.
so I do miss the seasons, but we don't have that here.
See, I do enjoy the cold, but then when it gets to January and it's like negative 25 up here, then I'm like, yeah, I could do for like maybe zero. Maybe that might be a thing.
Right?
But yeah, when it gets to the point where you can throw water up in the air and then it vaporizes before it touches the ground because it can get that cold. I'm like, yeah, I could go someplace else, for that. That's why we have a lot of old people here that then move to Florida for like the winter months and then come back. But what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
That you're surprised to know about me? Hmm. That I Let me think. I definitely think the Marine Corps thing, because I don't tell everybody that.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like a lot of people don't know I was in the military, and I tell people that stuff. Other than that, I'm a big nerd down the side. So, muscles usually don't equal that in people's heads, but I really am.
That's one of the things that I found out, especially when we were talking about before with like how people don't really look past the way you look. I found people that are like lawyers, people that are doctors that you would never think just by looking at their outside appearance. You're like, how are you able to do that? It looks like you spend like 8 hours a day in the gym. Like, how are you able to do anything else? And then they're like, oh no, but it's just all about that's why I've loved having guests on too, because you learn so many new interesting things about people. And yeah, you being in the Marine Corps, I didn't know that until you told me that before we started the podcast. I was like, oh wow, she's in the Marine Corps. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what is one thing that you would die to have if it went up for auction?
Die to have if it went up for auction. Hmm. Let me think. That's a really good question. Hmm. I have to say, and this sounds so dumb, but honestly, um, probably if you ever saw like the gun systems I worked on, like the gun systems are like huge when I was in the Navy. So the gun itself, like the barrels are like I think about 6 feet long. There's six of them rotate. I would like one of those just to put on display, just because that reminds me of endless hours during 9/11, cleaning that dang thing and having to take it apart and put it back together. It's a day's worth of work for one gun. Because you have to
Wow.
put all the links out there, you have to lay it all out. Yeah, and I would just love to have one of those on display. I don't know where it would go.
I'm gonna one up you. I'm just gonna go say an Apache helicopter for me. Just if you could get me just one of
Hey,
those.
hey, hey, you know what? You know what? It's always possible. You
Yeah.
don't know.
Private
This
collectors, who
podcast,
knows? Black market, yeah.
yeah, but I'm telling you, you never know. This podcast take off someday. You could be like
Yeah.
interviewing The Rock, interviewing,
Yeah. Interview
other.
on an Apache helicopter. Now that would be interesting.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Absolutely. That would be definitely cool to own one of those. But what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
Oh my God, it was definitely this is bad because a while ago it was probably either Breaking Bad or it was like a series, Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead. But I stopped watching The Walking Dead a long time ago. Um, and Big Bang Theory, I like
Yeah.
that one too.
Yep. Yeah,
But
my parents just absolutely love that. I stopped watching Big Bang after like the last few seasons just because it just got too much for me. Where I have so many shows that I have to watch. But yeah, the last TV show that I'd been watched, believe it or not, was New Girl, and I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I never thought that I would enjoy it, but I did. But what is your favorite TV show of all time?
favorite TV show of all time? Whew. I mean, I have to go back to the '80s. Probably Full House.
Ooh. That was my go-to show when I was younger too, even growing up, because all the reruns would be on ABC and everything. Yeah, we'd watch it. We'd watch it all the
That or
time.
Saved by the Bell.
Oh my God, yes, yeah.
Or on MTV, they used to have My So-Called Life with Jared Leto, who was on there
Jared Leto and Claire
before.
Danes. Yep.
Yep, before he started
You're
30
not going
Seconds
to
to
believe this,
Mars.
but I've actually watched all those episodes because I heard about it when I was a teen because everyone was talking about like how good it was back in the day, and I watched the entire first season. It was on Hulu because it was only on for one season, and I watched it. It was really good, and I was like, how did they not renew it for a second season? It's one of those things where yeah, it was, but yeah, that was really really good. So most people are surprised when they heard that I've watched it all.
Holy crap! I'm surprised.
I'm a history major, so I do. And like when you told me that you were in the military, I just got really really excited because I'm a military historian is like my huge thing where I do, like we drove to the East Coast for baseball, and I would always tell people like if we were getting close to like an American Revolution or Civil War battlefield, like we're stopping right here and I'm getting a photo so I can at least see what that was. And then we found like a mini ball at Gettysburg that was lodged in the ground or whatever, and they let us keep it. So that's one of the cool things. So yeah, for me, I mean, and then I have other veterans that are coming on later on in a couple of weeks to talk to them. That's just the whole thing where I just have especially for the military, it's just I have just such a huge amount of respect for everything that like you and everyone that's served have gone through, and it's just So, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Guilty pleasure movie. Let me think. I was just thinking about it today, actually. That movie, I like Ryan Reynolds. I think he's freaking hilarious.
Yes.
So the movie Definitely Maybe is like one of my favorites. I just love that movie. You've seen that movie?
I've heard about it. What's it about?
It's about him, his daughter, and he's getting divorced. So he tells a story to his daughter, and his daughter basically tries to figure out, he's trying to describe to her kind of like how he met her mother, but she doesn't know between these three girls who her mom is. And basically he tells a story of what happened because he's getting divorced. So it's the whole story kind of like wraps into this like cheesy love thing, but with him being the main character, it's awesome. It's so good.
Yeah, even following him on Twitter, he's like one of the funniest celebrities too. And
So
I mean,
funny.
I look at him and I hate him so much just because he has everything. Like he has the looks, he has the humor, and he has the body where I'm just like, dude, come on. It's not even fair. Mine is also sort of a romantic movie. My ultimate date night movie and my guilty pleasure movie is The Princess Bride. You get The Princess Bride on.
I do love that movie. Yeah. That movie is a good movie.
You get the Princess. That's one of those movies where if it's on TV, I'll drop everything that I'm doing, and I'll watch the rest of it. Where it's that's definitely one of my guilty pleasure for sure. But what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Mint chocolate.
Ooh, yep. That's a good one. My chocolate chip cookie dough blizzards from Dairy Queen. I mean, I gotta limit myself to once a month, but yeah, that's my go-to.
And I have a problem. Like, yeah, that's definitely it. But I throw some M&Ms on there.
Ooh.
Or Oreos.
Yeah.
Mint chocolate Oreos. I was weird because I never was like into mint chocolate, and then like all of a sudden it just became my thing.
What is one thing that you would like to change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the all-knowing power to do so?
Probably, make it harder to turn pro because, no offense to anybody that's in any of the other divisions, but when physique and bikini came out, it kind of like really flooded the industry with so many pros that, no disrespect to them, but it just seems that, the shows go on forever because of those divisions. And there's so many classes, like, when you go to the national level, it's like, every class is separated by an inch to inch and a half, and it's ridiculous. So that's what I would change. Maybe more money for the women.
Yeah, that too. That is a ridiculous thing that we haven't really touched on that much, but yeah, it's just like a lot of other things where the women, aren't, and plus the women too usually have to put in more work than the men because the men are just so genetically blessed, ahead of time. Like I always said, if bodybuilding is a race, the guys just get to drive in a straight path where the girls sort of have to weave and go under underpasses and merge, just because there also is unfairly there still is that thing of like we have to make them still look feminine or be feminine, where it's like for the guys they can just get as big as they want basically and just say like, oh hey, look at how big I can get. Like you see guys like Ronnie Coleman, who we had on the show a couple days ago, and I'll be posting his thing in a few days for everyone out there. Ronnie Coleman on the show, who's just I just even told him, I was like, how do you even fit through doors? That guy's just massive. So, but yeah, it's just one of those unfair things too. So definitely. And then for me too, one of the things is the politics too. Like we've heard so many stories about the politics of how sometimes like certain people some like seem to never lose, even though, someone might
Yeah,
look a little bit better. And it's just, that's another thing too
yeah,
that I would change there. But just like any sport, there's always going to be like politics involved. There's going to be, but it's just one of those
always.
things that you need to, yeah, it's one of those things that you definitely, need to get, a little bit of more of a look on. But is it hard also knowing that it is a sport where your result is basically 99% up to someone else and not up to you at all?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, I think like some of the girls with the genetically small weights, like to the point where it's like so small that that's becoming the norm. Um, but if you've been competing long enough, I think you know like what kind of package you need to bring. It's hit or miss depending on who shows up. The judges will tell you, what they're looking for. They'll say, it just depends on who shows up that day. So work the hardest you can and look the best you can and as symmetrical as possible. I think that's the key. I mean, I have the same coach as Jody. Bill Anger. He's amazing, and he's basically let me run with everything myself. And we just bounce stuff off each other. And as far as diet, I follow his diet and I follow his workout day protocol. Like he tells me what exercise or how many exercises to do. He doesn't necessarily give me the exercise. I just kind of like go with it. And he's just really good with emotional like support and understanding, especially women. Um, Especially when you're breaking down and you're just having second thoughts and second guessing yourself, because that happens to me a lot. Like towards the end, I start to second guess. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
And obviously, I mean, I got to ask again, just because if someone does go back and look at how you looked maybe 12 years ago as to how you look now, that is a huge change. Like I said before we did the podcast, I mean, it's almost like you're a totally different person. You put on so much more muscle, so much more size. It's truly remarkable. What is your big secret? Was it just a big nutritional change that you did?
You know what? It's the actual like I think it's like more of your the basic movements. Like you want to do compound movements, compound exercises. Do it. I really truly believe if you go for a couple years, you don't want to consistently squat heavy because you'll spread your pelvis. Okay, so you don't want to lose your aesthetics for lifting heavy. So, I went for a year of heavy training and did a lot of like heavy squats and all that last year, and my waist was thicker. This year, I basically did more shaping movements and trained glutes every day. And Bill had me work glutes every day since March. So I throw in like a couple sets here and there. And adding those exercises, it's more like fine tuning the mass you already have. So every year, I think consistently training that's the secret is being consistent and staying on it and continuing to increase your weight, but also know when to back off so that you don't damage your muscle or like damage your joints and all that. So if you start feeling things, you have to be more aware of your body. I think that's a lot of what has to do with size. Rack pulls, pull-ups. Pull-ups have greatly improved my back. I mean, I used to never be able to do pull-ups, but I could do 1,000 pull downs. But being able to do pull-ups really shapes the lats. You don't want to just have big upper back. You want to have a full back with like density. I think, really holding and pinching the weight helps a lot. And I don't think people think of those details when they're training. Sometimes they just go through the motion. They don't have someone sit there and go, no, do the full rep, the full rep.
Yeah, we've had people on here who just, everyone seems to have one specific body part that's just genetically meant to be huge. Like you were talking about, it's your calves or your legs. We had a lady
Yeah.
on yesterday who's like, her biceps were just naturally big. And then we've had someone whose traps were just huge. Has that been hard for you to sort of lay off on your legs, knowing that like you do have to be proportioned to just not go overboard on your legs and just see like how big that they could eventually get?
Yeah, I didn't want to like my calves. Like I don't really touch them much, but I do. My quads were always dominant. I think by really working the hamstring and building the glutes, kind of working on the symmetry of the leg, it's taken away the fact that my calves are so big. They're still there, but they're not as dominant. I have to say. So I think trying to lay off of those and build the muscles around it is the key. Like I said, it's like sculpting.
As someone who has small calves, I got to say that you are incredibly lucky, though, that you never have to touch a calf thing. All the calf raises that I had to do in high school and I had to do in college, I still have mental scars from it. I still do it on occasion, but yeah, it's got to a point where I just, I've accepted the fact that my calves are just going to be small no matter what I do, and just move on with my life. But it's yeah,
Right.
it's one of the toughest things that I've ever had to do for sure. But what we also sort of like to talk about, people don't talk about the prep brain sort of, and what I mean by prep brain for people who don't understand is that during your last few weeks, especially before you get into the show, just all of the sort of dieting that you've done can sort of sometimes mess with your mind. Like we've had people that sometimes don't know that they've done stuff, like they forget a lot of things. What has your experience with prep brain been like? And I know that you're going to be entering that in probably a week or so if you haven't already, but what has that experience been like for you in the past?
Yeah, I mean, you do stupid things like, one time I dropped, this is years ago, I dropped an egg down the sink. And I actually, while the incinerator was going, and I put my hand down there. And luckily, the blade stopped on my finger. Like, what was I thinking? Or, I mess up numbers, sometimes like in my head, or I'll forget to take something out, or like I just told myself to do it, and I leave, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot this or I forgot that. I mean, I think that's more like you become more forgetful because
Yeah.
you're so on this schedule that like your brain's more like just thinking about working out, getting your workout in, and just getting through it.
And at what point in your journey did you decide that you wanted to help out others and sort of, help train people or, just help give that guidance? Or have you always been like that?
I think I've always been like a helper, but I think when I started learning all about the body and how you can change it, I think that I really wanted to express that to people because I knew that I was pretty clueless about it, and I thought that if I could help other people see that they can do it if they put their mind to it, I thought that would be a really, that kind of like made me want to pursue personal training. And I was, 20 years old when I became a trainer. So, I
What would you
mean,
say is the number one excuse that you hear from clients as opposed to like not wanting to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle? What's the biggest excuse you usually get?
I got so much going on in my life. I got too much going on right now. That's what I hear.
Yep.
And then I'm like, well, so does everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about like how bad do you want it? And it doesn't have to be a competition. It can be just how bad do you want to lose 5 to 10 pounds?
Mm-hmm.
How bad? You really don't. So until you're ready, that's what I tell people. Come to me then. But at the moment, it sounds like you don't really want to.
And I always say, like, we've had guests on here that are nurses who work 12-hour shifts and they're still able to find a way to get that workout in. So it is all about determination. I mean, we all have the same 24 hours in the day, except The Rock. I think he has like 26 or 27 because how he's able to get all of his stuff done,
I
he's
have
got to have
no
a
idea.
secret. Yeah, to do all those movies and to do everything and to still look that good and get his workouts done. Yeah, I have no idea how he does it. But yeah, everyone else besides The Rock still has those 24 hours to, get that workout in and still, maintain that healthy lifestyle. It is sustainable. It is all about willpower and determination. One of the big things that we also hear, or I personally hear from people too, or I'm not a trainer or anything, but like when people sometimes still come up to me and ask me questions is people sometimes seem to have this misconception that healthy food is somehow super expensive. What is your main response to that when people come up to you and say that?
It is. I'd say if you do all organic stuff, but I don't. So I go to Walmart and get my stuff. I tell people buy in bulk. Just buy in bulk. You're better off buying in bulk. Make your food, but a lot of people won't eat old food. So, that's another excuse. I don't want to eat food that's not fresh. And I hear that one too. Um, if you can't afford fish, then go get chicken. If you can't afford chicken, it's like turkey, chicken, fish. If steak's expensive too, then go for the eggs, egg whites.
Mhm.
Egg whites are awesome. So
Well, and if you can't afford fish, you get a stick, you tie a rope to it, and you put a little nail to it, and then you
yeah,
catch
go
it.
exactly.
That's it.
There's
Well,
plenty of fish.
yeah. Especially being in Florida too, or being in Minnesota, places that are just surrounded by waters and lakes. It's like, yeah, that should never be an excuse.
It's like after your workout, go to the lake,
Yeah,
go fish,
go
get your
fish.
own fish. Boom.
That would be actually pretty awesome. But then I also tell people rice is one of the least expensive things that you'll ever get, and that's one of the good things that you can have, especially for post workout. Is that I usually like to have a lot of rice, or I'll have some potatoes, even though that's not the healthiest option. But that's just something that I fill up because I do have a job too, where I walk around all the time, where I'm just constantly burning, where I do need to just sort of supplement with a lot of carbs in order to get through the day. Lastly, I always like to ask if you could go back and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give her?
You need to take time off. You need to rest. rest your mind, rest your body. Don't be so quick to want the result. That's going to take time. And my before and afters will show people that
Yes.
true change takes time. And it's patience. You need patience, which a lot of people don't have. I don't always have it, but just if you're patient and you're consistent, you're going to get the result.
And I gotta say, just by looking at her before and after photos, yes, everyone, she probably has my favorite before and after, just because it's such a huge. I mean, she was in great shape back then. Don't get me wrong, but just how she is now, I mean, it's total night and day, 100%. And what was probably the most important thing that the Marine Corps also taught you, just going into your civilian life?
I have to say, once again, patience and just the amount of people that come from different places. I mean, it's just like a melting pot. So is Florida, but you have people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, and I think that realizing that you are not always in control. It's not about what you can control. I think the best thing is that you can only control how you react to something. And a lot of times people ask me how my tolerance is so high for things, and I say, well, because I mean, yeah, I've been through a lot of stressful situations. I just think I'm like, it could always be worse.
Hmm.
It could always be worse, and it's how you react. I mean, I've prepped through breakups. I've prepped through, I mean, getting like told to leave from my ex, and I broke up once, and he was like, get out. And I basically packed up and still won a show doing that. And it was like, just because I kind of compartmentalized it, and I was like, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to make it happen. And there's no way I'm stopped. So
Absolutely.
regardless of that, it's how you have to live.
I couldn't agree more. Where can people find you? I mean, other than Instagram, which we'll leave down below, if they want to get in touch with you, maybe for some personal training or some online training or any type. Is there any other ways other than Instagram that they could get a hold of you?
Yeah. I have a website. It's kellylynnfit.com. It's real simple. So same thing as my Instagram, Kelly Lynn Fit. Everything is that. Or kellylynnfit@gmail.com. You can email me.
All right, I'll leave all those links down below. And again, you guys, we cannot thank Kelly enough for coming on the show. Obviously, we're very glad to finally have someone who's in the prep mode and about to compete in a show, so that we can see. Because we always had, well, we did have one lady who had just put the tan on, and she was Australian, but she was figure, and we got to see that. So that was an interesting thing. I mean, I had two Australians on, just thought that accent alone was the greatest thing ever. I was just like, just please keep talking. We can go and do this for like 10 hours. But yeah, just having, I mean, Kelly, I mean, like I said, I've followed you for years, especially when I started following all the like male and female bodybuilders or health and fitness competitors when I got into shape. So it was really an honor and just a pleasure talking to you. You were an absolute
Thank
great
you.
guest. And is there like a message before we wrap things up? Is there a message that you'd sort of like to give out to people? Because it has gotten better, but sometimes there are still some misconceptions that the general public has about female bodybuilders. Is there a certain message that you would like to sort of, tell people that might believe that myth?
Yeah, we're just teddy bears.
Hmm.
We're just little soft teddy bears too. We're just like every other girl. I think it's just it's a different edge. You just a little edgier. That's what I think.
And
So
And I gotta say, all the bodybuilders that we've had on the show, they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Go up to them in the gym. I mean, and I always say, don't go up when they're doing like bench press mid set. I've seen that happen where I was like, no, you're an idiot. Do not go up and talk to someone when they're doing that. But they're some of the most approachable, nicest people down to earth that you will ever meet. So open minded. I mean, it's unbelievable. So that's definitely a huge misconception that I love to bust as well. And that's gonna be our last one that we're gonna bust on the show. But yeah, just go and talk to people. Just go out there and reach out to other people. That's one thing that I've learned from this podcast too, is that, so many people have so many unique stories. And before, like I said, with the Marine Corps, I'd never known that Kelly was even in the Marines, even though I'd followed her for years. And it's just one of those things where just talking to people and learning their stories is just so awesome. And again, we cannot thank Kelly enough. Go follow her at all of the links down below that I'll leave for her. And we wish you nothing but the best of luck on your show. Personally, I think you're going to win. I mean, you look amazing. You clearly, all of the hard work is starting to pay off.
thank you.
And it's going to get even better for the next. When's your show? Is it in about a month?
November 16th.
November
So it's
16th.
literally you just got me a month out.
Just got her a month out, everyone. So she's still got a month, and she's going to look even better than she looks now, and that's going to be hard to imagine. And everyone, go and give her a follow. Like I said, you will be inspired to put down the Twinkies, get off the couches, and start, exercising and adapting that more healthy and fit lifestyle. Absolutely. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.